Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about the Dialed Pruf. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode. I know I have not done any fishing content lately, just mainly doing hunting stuff right now. Haven't really been out fishing, need to fix my boat a little bit, but I really enjoy just doing everything outdoor related, whether that's hunting, fishing, archery, shooting, hiking, anything like that. I really enjoy doing. So I'm going to start mixing up a little bit about what all I am putting out there on the channel. But today we are going to be going over my new Dialed Pruf I put on my bow. Up until now, every single bow, the last few bows since I went over to a single pin, I've been using like what's right here on my Phase 4, the HHA Tetra Tournament. And I really liked them, but with my new bow that I just got, the Lift X 29.5, I wanted to get something that could reach out a little bit farther, was a little bit lighter because the Tetra Tournament is a very, very heavy sight, and just something that was different. This Tetra Tournament only has one single pin on it, and I was looking at getting multiple pins because in a hunting situation, I've ran into where I can't get my sight actually dialed down, and I only have one pin to shoot with, where if I have multiple on a vertical pin, I am able to have multiple different yardages. So that's kind of what prompted me into getting a different sight, and I went, like I said, with the Pruf. So today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the specs, a little bit about what I've found with the sight so far, and kind of my thoughts on this sight. So, going to change up the angle a little bit, that way you guys have a little bit of a better view and can look more in depth at this sight. Okay, now that we got a little bit closer, we are going to, messing up my arrows a little bit down here. We are going to be starting at the tail of the sight and working up towards the actual scope or the mag or whatever you want to call it, the actual housing of the sight. So first off, starting back here, at the very base of it, you have the bracket that goes on how you attach it to your bow. Of course, mine, since I've got a Matthews, I went with the bridge lock adapter to be able to put on here. Now, they make three different mounts on these. They make a bridge lock, they make a dovetail like a normal one that can bolt on the outside, and they make the Picatinny mount. The Picatinny mount, of course, goes straight on. All of them are the same price. When you go on Dialed's website, you can get any of those different mounts that you want. So yeah, I mean, you can pick when you buy it. Another cool thing is they actually sell them individually on the website. So say I bought this, say my next bow I get would be a Hoyt, because I did come from a Hoyt RX7 to my Phase 4 and then my Phase 4 to the Lift. So say I wanted to get back into a Hoyt, or if I wanted to just get another bow and have it be a Hoyt, I could get that Picatinny adapter, and all there are two bolts here on the side towards the riser. I could unbolt that, put the different bracket on it, and mount it onto my other bow. So that is one really cool feature. So if I have multiple different bows I want to have a sight on, you're not just stuck to only one specific type of mount, like what I am with my HHA Tetra, is it's only a dovetail. I can only put it on a Matthews, or even I guess I could put it on a dovetail model of it too. But when you start getting over to a Hoyt, you can't really optimize or use the Picatinny feature on it. Moving on is you have the axis adjustment. So right here you have the first axis. Let's see if I can flip it around. So first axis, you can see probably right here, you've got the second axis, and on the front of it, sorry, I'm trying to be able to get you guys to see it right here, we got the third axis. Now, all of those bolts, I just brought my sight into a shop, and all those bolts and the axis adjustments really, really easy. I just brought it in, had all the axes aligned. All you do is you can put your little Allen key in there, and you can adjust each different way until you get everything figured out. Now, my sight came with the third axis fully perfect. The first and second axis, though, were a little bit off, so it did need adjusted a little bit. But from there, though, it is really easy to get adjusted, really user-friendly, and overall just really liked it. And that is one of the things that Dialed changed in this sight compared to the Arxos, is the Arxos didn't really have a good user-friendly way of adjusting the axis. So they did that in this sight. As in the name, the Pruf, they said it was the Pruf that they could come up with that the actual better sight or the best sight out there. And yeah, so that's what they did, is they fixed everything from the Arxos. Another thing that they did, which I believe is a change from the Arxos, I never had an Arxos, so I can't tell you for sure, but you can have a sight tape on the outside or the inside and the outside of the actual sight. So let's see if you can get you guys to see that right there. So you can have outside and inside. For me, I set up my actual arrows I shoot most of the time, which are my hunting arrows, and they're also going to be my tack arrows with the inside tape, because it's easier for me just to look real quick and change it. This inside tape is set up for my RIP TKO 300s, is a 437 grain arrow. My outside sight tape is going to be what I'm going to use probably for these arrows right here. These are RIP TKO 250s, and the 250s have a 75 grain out or half out instead of a 50 grain and a wrap on them. So it's a little bit heavier. It's like a 467, 468 grain arrow. And I'm gonna probably run that on the outside, or I'm gonna run the new Easton 5.0s with probably a 50 grain half out, 15 grain collar and 100 grain field tip. And I'm gonna run that on the outside so I can get everything sighted in for there. So it's nice being able to have two different sight tapes. You can either set them up both the same with the same, so you can just look and get everything perfect, whether or not you're looking on the inside or outside, or you can set them up for different arrows. So that is one cool feature I really like about this sight. Another thing, which probably going to be a little bit hard to see, is right here on the actual dial itself, you have 3 different pins that show your yardage, and that is for the pins on the actual mag itself. So my sight I got is, it is the mag 1 or 3V, which is a vertical pin. So I've got one single pin with 3 different three different pins on it, and or 3 different fibers on it, so you can have 3 different yardages. So you can either get, I think it's the 1V or the 3V. The 1V comes with 2 different pins or fibers on it. It comes with the top green and then the red. The 3V comes with the 3, so you have green, red, green. Now I wanted that so I could have 3 different yardages for hunting, especially if I go out west. Which one downside of that is you cannot adjust the actual fibers or pins on the vertical itself, which does kind of suck, because this bow is a pretty fast bow. It's a 306 feet per second bow with my arrows I'm using. So my 20 yard, if I adjust it, my 20 yard is on at the top pin. My second pin is at 35, 36 yards, and my third pin down is at 48 yards. So, I mean, it can help a little bit, but it's not ideal, because if I did an ideal setup, I would have 20, 30, 40 on those 3, but you can't adjust them. But oh well, we make do with everything that we got, and it still works out pretty well. So my sight tape and my bow's shooting pretty good to where it's not a huge difference in those yardages. So between 20 and 30, I can probably use my top pin, just aim a few inches high, be completely fine. Now, moving on with the actual housing is, let me get it in focus, right here. The actual dial to be able to, or well, the lock to be able to lock your actual dial, pull it up. You can move your sight, or you can put it halfway and you can have some tension and still move it, or you can put it all the way down, lock it in, and you can move it, but it takes a lot of force. I don't recommend doing it, even though it is possible. But yeah, this is one thing they also, from what I've heard, changed from the Arxos. I didn't have an Arxos, so I don't know for sure, but I heard is the dead stop on the Arxos was really bad, and sometimes their sight would actually fall while they were actually shooting it, and they always had to mess with their sight. This sight, I've had 0 issues. I've shot tons of arrows through it. It's stuck, and it's been really, really good. Moving on from there, of course, you have micro adjustments. You can loosen up these a little bit and be able to micro adjust your windage. To be able to set your sight tape, you've got to actually undo these for your 20 yards. So you undo these 2 bolts, you move it up and down to get it, and go from there. But you do have micro adjusting for windage itself, which is nice to have. So let's go on up to the actual mag or housing or sight, whatever you want to call it, the scope itself. One thing I really like is having the level on top. This makes it easier to be able to level everything up instead of having to look down at everything when you're trying to kind of stay up on the target and work your way slowly down. This makes it easy having it up here, so then you can kind of look at everything and not have to move around too much. I don't know why, it just makes it feel like it's a little bit easier to level out that way. And it also gives more clearance for the sight, so they're able to put them a little bit farther down, and you're able to extend out your actual shooting range quite a bit. Which, one thing I forgot is the actual famous way that Dialed has their bar that your sight's on to be able to dial it. This bar is diagonal. Supposedly that gives you more clearance because higher up it keeps your sight out farther. As you go to get longer yards, it brings it closer to your riser, which the theory is that bringing it closer to the riser gets more yardage somehow. I'm not sure all the math or science on that, but what I can tell you is a 437 grain bow or arrow I'm shooting with this bow. This bow is 75 pounds, 76 pound drawback or limb weight, and 29 inches. And I can tell you this bow with the 437 with my top pin, I'm at about 120 yards. So, and I still got a tiny bit of clearance left at that. So, and I'll show you guys here in a second about how much clearance and how far my sight tape can actually go down. But yeah, I mean, I do have insane yardage with this. That means with my bottom pin, I'm probably going to be able to reach 140 to 150, somewhere in there. We'll see. I haven't actually shot out that far yet, so we'll have to test it out and see. But back to the mag. Now, another thing on the mag is it is nice to have is you have this little sunshade. So you can, I put it out, I shoot with it that way most of the time. I haven't ran into an issue where my pins have gotten too bright for me. I have gotten to where they've been a tiny bit dim right at last light or in the evening shooting, but you can have the sunshade, move it back and forth. So if it's really bright out, you don't want your pins getting crazy bright, you can slide it back, cover it up, or put it wherever you want to limit the light. Now, Dialed does make a accessory that you can get, which is a light for this. So you can take this off, put on an actual light, and then you'll be able to brighten up and dim down your level and your pins all at one, which is pretty nice. Now, moving on to the actual housing itself and the pins. The pins, like I said, I went with the 3 vertical, so you can get a 1 pin vertical, which has the 2 pins on it. You can get a 3 pin vertical, or I believe you can get a 3 pin horizontal and 5 pin horizontal. I'm not sure on all the other options, but those are what I know of off the bat. You can get them in a 10 thou pin and a 19 thou pin. I got the 10 thou. I like smaller pins like that, and whenever it gets really bright, it doesn't start really blowing out the pins like what a 19 thou pin does. So that is something nice about this sight. All the options for actually getting everything you want on it. Something else is, I believe all the stuff or the accessories from the Arxos do fit on the actual mag itself. For all the actual dovetail stuff, you can get custom everything on Dialed. I think they've got 15 different options for the dial itself, the housing around the sight, and all the little stuff like that. Anything that's white on my bow, you can get, I think it's 15 different colors. Same for the outside dial is this. You can get pretty much any color you want out of the 15. And for the actual sight itself, it is Cerakoted, which allows them to be able to make it match any bow that you want. For me, I liked black. I didn't know what color I was going to get on my bow at first when I ordered it, but I like the black look on this bow a little bit better than getting it the color that matches the shale on the Matthews. So that is another cool thing, is how many different options you can get that customize this sight and really make it exactly what you want and personalize it what a lot of people like. So real quick, let's throw an arrow on here. I'm just going to line it up with my actual nock itself, or I'm going to line it up with my D-loop, put it right there, and let's crank down the actual dial and get it and see where the clearance ends. So now this isn't a great way of testing how far you can get it. It's just a rough estimate. So I've got right there, that's probably about the closest I would want to get to my arrow itself, which is, I've got probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in between my vane and the top of the housing. I'm going to pull you guys off the tripod real quick to be able to show you this. So that's where I last had clearance at. And right here, you can see there's my 100-yard pin. Down here is where my top pin is. So it's about 120-ish yards. I haven't shot it yet, but just on average, I would say that's probably about what I'm gonna be able to get to. So it's got plenty of actual clearance on the sight itself. I may have a tiny bit more, but that's just being generous on what I think is gonna be best for me, and I don't wanna go any lower on the sight than that when I'm shooting. Overall, this sight is awesome. There's only a few downsides to it, one being the cost. These sights start at $560, and that is for the vertical 1-pin. I went with the vertical 3-pin, and the vertical 3-pin I believe was $580, roughly somewhere around there. But all the models start at $560, and I think they go up to $580 or $600, somewhere around there, depending on what version, scope, or actual mag you get on it. I think no matter what the way that it attaches to the bow is, they all start there at the same price. So the actual bracket doesn't change the price when you're ordering one. But yeah, that is a major downside because that's a lot of money. That's about the same price as what the UltraView slider is. It is about $120, $140 cheaper than the new Matthews UV slider that they just came out with. But for me, I would definitely take this over a slider any day. I'm getting crazy ranges out of it. It is sub 10 ounces, I believe, so it's a pretty light sight. I'm sure the slider is about the same, but compared to something like my HHA, that is a crazy light sight. The pin brightness is okay. It's not great, but it is better than a lot of sights I've used. And yeah, the amount of things you can customize on the sight is crazy. So that's another thing that I absolutely love about this. So what I think I'm gonna get is the shale colored accessories, so I can put the shale colored actual housing that goes, or the sunshade on it, and then shale colored rings around the actual housing itself and the dial. I don't know, it's one thing I've thrown around, but overall, this sight's awesome. It's great features, being able to have 2 different sight tapes on it and all the different options. I know I'm rambling at this point, but I would definitely recommend the sight to anybody wanting to get a higher end sight, or for somebody looking for a sight to be able to put on a bow to go shoot tack. Because for me, being able to reach 120 yards, if I want to do any of the tack events, 120, I don't think I'm going to have to go below my top pin, and it makes it so much easier to shoot long range like that. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you watched this far, I'm looking forward to doing some more bow videos, whether or not it's comparing different sights, going over different accessories, different bows, anything like that. So let me know what you guys would like to see down in the comments. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next one.